Hey everyone, and welcome to the research class. Today we're gonna have an introduction to the research class, uh, just to give you an overview uh, of what to expect in the class and introduce some of the foundational concepts. Uh, is what we'll be doing in this lecture. And so this class itself. Is focusing on doing research. Uh, and so the foundation to this class is the statistics class, which will teach you basic stats and gives you the skill sets to do computational stuff, uh, which is doing your mean, median, mode, maybe some bit um, of data analysis using GraphPad or SPSS or even Excel Word. But the research class itself focuses on um, giving you that ability to con- uh, conceptualize research. That's to think of um, something that's out there, whether as part of practice or something you've read in the literature that um, you are interested in, and you are also wanting to make a contribution to. And so today is the first class, and we're going to look at research in its entirety. What is research itself, and why is research important? And so the objectives for this lecture is to introduce us to the class and also to look at the importance of research and to also focus on why um, and to also focus on research consumerism, which is um, who are those people that actually utilize research results, and in what particular ways do they um, utilize this information? And so, just to start off, looking at some basic definition of research, which is a systematic collection, analysis, and reporting of data and of facts. If data collection um, does not involve some type of structure, does not involve using a systematic method, and that in itself is not research. And so, for research to take place, um, there has to be some type of systematic data collection and also a systematic um, data analysis and of reporting of facts. The importance of that is because we want to make sure that whatever procedures you use in your data collection, analysis, and reporting can be reproduced. Uh, and it's not haphazard, that you didn't just come up with the methods that you use. It's something that's tested over time and which actually works. Uh, and so research is something that we do every day. Let's say hypothetically, um, you wanted to buy a new car. Uh, what are some ways that you would go about making that decision? And one of the ways you could do that is actually maybe to go on the internet and to check out the kind of cars that are available given the amount of money that you may have. Another way could be to ask your friends or family members about certain types of cars or to express their interest in wanting to buy a car and if they would have any suggestions for you. Um, Once you collect any type of information and analyze that type of information for decision making, and it becomes research, especially when it's organized, when uh, it's done in a very systematic manner. And so research helps to provide new information uh, on things that kind of like interest us, so an area of interest. And so the overall aim of research is to help us make sound decisions. Uh, and so, why is research itself important? let's say in psychology or counseling or as an academic discipline. And the reason is because for us as psychologists or counselors, we're interested in behavior. And one of the ways that we're able to describe behavior is by engaging in research. When we say hypothetically that we attend a football game that's organized by Alabama A&M. Let's say we attend a football game and we want to know how the home team will react when they're winning versus when they're losing. Uh, if we go to that game and we're able to make certain types of observations, then we can describe what those behaviors are. Um, in other instances, we could also predict the behaviors. For instance, if the home team is winning, how do they react? If the home team is losing, how do they react in terms of their support? Are they more vocal or less vocal? And we could also use research to explain behavior. Um, when the home team is winning and the support becomes more vocal, what does that mean? What is the underlying behavior? Is it because they're excited? And we could also try to control certain types of behaviors, especially when behavior is unwanted. Um, we could undertake some type of research such that at the end of the day we could use that to develop measures that we put in place to address such negative behaviors. Um, One type of study that comes to my mind is what we call single subject designs, where behavior of a single individual, especially of children, or of a case, maybe like a group of children, can be observed and interventions provided to these children, and then their behaviors observed to see if the interventions caused any type of change in their behavior. That is one of the foundations of single subject design. So research encompasses all of this, has a capacity to describe behavior, predict behavior, explain behavior, and also helps to control behavior. And so, what's the value of research itself? Um, just like I had mentioned earlier, research information is important because uh, it helps to provide knowledge that sometimes we could use to do some assessments or even evaluation. Let's say, hypothetically, a government sponsored program, we want to see if that program is effective. Let's say, like the food stamp program. How does that program impact people differentially? So let's say in terms of single mothers and two-parent households, we could do research to see if the program does provide some type of help, and how is that different between the two families, such that if there was a need, or if we identify some type of gap, then we could address that as well. Um, Research also um, um, helps us to uh, gain deeper insight to things that are put out there as fact. So if someone tells you that Listerine kills germs 99% of the time, what are the facts that you have to substantiate that, except to conduct your own experiment? We could take that such information at face value, but for us to uh, be good researchers or be good consumers of research information, we have to evaluate that statement and to engage in certain behaviors or steps that would help us to draw conclusions about the accuracy of such knowledge. Research itself helps to advance our profession. Most of the knowledge that we have now uh, comes from actual research that was done in the past. And the more research that we do, the more we build on um, our professions. One of the things that's important as a student, regardless of your discipline, is to become more and more reflective. A reflexive practitioner would use research information uh, to guide their decision makings and their interventions with their client. So you're guided by empirical information. We call it evidence-based practice. So you're not just providing interventions randomly. Um, and so, how do we obtain information? What are some ways that people obtain information in general when it comes to um, trying to find out about things? Uh, One way we could do that is to consult experts or people that we call authorities. So, um, let's say uh, you wanted to know something about tax, you would have to consult a tax consultant. That person is an expert on taxes, and so they could provide information about taxes and interpret that information and say, this is what it means. Um, Another way is for us to review books and articles that are out there that other people have written. That could also provide information for us. We could also ask questions, make observations, rely on past experiences, use our intuition, or we could use what I prefer, which is the scientific method, which is different than the ones that all the others that we've talked about. Um, and all the methods that we've talked about involves, um, you know, sometimes asking questions, sometimes depending on our senses, sometimes using logic or using expert opinion. But the scientific method itself is different because the scientific um, method tests ideas um, in the public arena by formulating what we call hypothesis. An hypothesis is a tentative assertion that we will make about certain behaviors or phenomena or even events within a very rigorous format. Uh, so let's say that we want to know why there's a higher crime rate in the summer. We would not just assume that the higher rate is just of crime, the higher crime rate in the summer is just because of the weather. We would have to go out there and check information about community policing and what is out there, um, and cultural events and things that would typically happen in the summer that sort of like causes people to engage in certain behaviors. And so that brings us to um, looking at the difference between science and pseudoscience. Uh, there is what we call pseudoscience, which is untestable claims um, that are out there, claims that are not substantiated by um, actual facts. But the scientific method uses data, uses multiple means to verify the accuracy of the information. Um, and whatever information we put out there, even if it's like 1,000 years, um, in light of new evidence, that information can be brought to question. Um, and the scientific knowledge or data that we put out there is peer reviewed. So that means that people that are um, from your discipline would also evaluate that knowledge to test the accuracy of that information. However, the length of time that may have elapsed. And so the scientific method is different than pseudoscience. So the overall goal of behavioral research that we're um, doing in the social sciences is to help us to describe, predict, uh, explain, and to understand behavior. Um, and so let's look at some basic types of research that we have. Three basic types: uh, descriptive, relational, and causal. Um, the most common types that you would find are the descriptive types, so the surveys and the qualitative studies. and then relational studies that are correlation studies and predictive studies